Hey, everybody, this is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the podcast. As you guys can see, yours truly is not in the studio. And that's a good thing because today I'm here with my friend, the one and only, the national treasure, Mike Farris. And we're going to be dishing about the state of homeschooling and where we go from here to meet the moment. Thanks for tuning in today, you guys. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. You know, homeschooling is about a whole lot more than reading, writing, and arithmetic. At the heart of homeschooling is discipleship. It's about discipling our children and pointing them to Jesus. This is why I'm so excited to partner with my friends at the Illuminate Bible series from Lifestone Ministries. It's a Bible curriculum that is designed to grow with your kids from first grade all the way through high school. So whether your kids are just learning to read or they're starting to ask the deeper questions about faith and culture, Illuminate is going to meet them right where they are. And this is the best part. Illuminate is literally built for families. You don't need a stack of books for each child. You can walk through the curriculum together using workbooks that are tailored to each age of your children. So each week, this is how it works. You're going to follow a simple rhythm. You're going to read a Bible story, and then you're going to study it in context, connect it to the bigger story of Scripture, dig into theology, and then apply it to everyday life. It's real discipleship that fits right into your homeschool day without piling extra stress. In a world where so many kids are walking away from their faith, Illuminate is a tool that's going to help you help them anchor their hearts in the truth while keeping Christ the center of your homeschool. If you want to learn more, and I hope that you do, visit lifestoneministries.com/Heidi. I'm glad you guys are here. Thank you to the sponsor of today's show. We're being sponsored in part by the Functional Medical Institute. You guys can check them out at homeschoolhealth.com. All right, you guys, this is a thrill for me. I know you're going to love this. Mike Farris, wow. You're like a unicorn. I don't know where I'm going to run into you. I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Heidi. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Last time we were able to do it in your beautiful building there in the Vancouver area, and
Yes.
just it's a great ministry that God's called you to, and I'm glad to be with you today here and at the Homeschool Conference.
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. So, this is the HSLDA Leader Summit. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is the 450th
That's what
leader.
I was just going
Yeah,
to say.
something.
I think we're coming up on 450.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know how many. It's been a long time. I think it started in '88,
Mm-hmm.
and it was in Portland, actually, the first
No
one. Yeah,
kidding.
yeah.
Before Portland was taken over by communists?
Yes, yes. It was.
Excellent.
They were just socialists then.
They were just socialists. They were
Yeah.
communism light back then.
Right. That's right. But the leadership conference was started by Sue Welch
Yeah.
with the Teaching Home
Yeah.
magazine
Out of
and
Portland, that would
out of
explain
Portland.
it.
Yeah, and and then 2 years later, uh, we were asked at HSLDA to take it over, and it's been the HSLDA conference ever since. And so it's been a long time, and how many ever years it's been? It's been a lot of years.
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
plus years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and it seems like, you guys have obviously seen the ebb and the flow of the homeschool movement. We saw a massive rise, obviously, in homeschooling in COVID because for a minute, everybody was homeschooling.
Right.
And we're at a different place right now. Where do you like if you were to give just a state of the union abbreviated for where we are at for homeschooling, what would you say?
Well, I'll look at two different aspects of it. One is just the growth. The growth is phenomenal. There was a huge temporary spike in homeschooling where not only were the people that were still doing public school, but they were having to do it from their home,
Yeah, yeah.
but that people actually starting to homeschool. And so the number shot up to about 10% of the school age population. Now, that's backed off a bit, probably in the 8 to 9% of the population range is the net, which is
It's
a
pretty
big growth.
amazing.
It's a big growth. It was
Yeah.
about 5% before COVID, and it's probably about eight. We'll call it eight would be a safe number right
Hmm.
now. So that's a
Massive.
phenomenal growth over a short period of time, and so in that sense, it's really good. And the more people that you have in homeschooling, and the more people that know about homeschooling, the greater our freedom is,
Hmm.
because people feel an affinity toward us. In fact, I think that every public school parent is a little more um, solicitous of the rights of homeschoolers
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
because they themselves felt they were kind of homeschoolers for a little bit. And if we don't get too technical about it,
Mm-hmm.
that spirit of looking toward us with a degree of kinship
Yeah. Oh, I did that.
is a helpful thing.
Yeah.
And so that is an important factor. However, there are many other things in the legal political front that are looking a lot more like the 80s and 90s of the homeschooling movement, where the right for homeschooling was really pretty much on the core fight of the country for freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're moving back into to those days now, particularly in blue states. And so I think we're going to see a lot of legislative activity. I'm a professional speaker. I can say a lot of legislative activity without.
That was actually pretty good.
That wasn't
That was
bad.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. But New Jersey's bill is the one that bothers me the most.
Okay, so let's talk
Yeah,
about that
yeah,
because I
okay.
haven't even
Yeah,
addressed it on my
yeah,
show, and
yeah,
this is kind of a five alarm fire if we're not
yeah,
paying attention.
yeah. Now, New Jersey intends, they haven't passed the bill yet, but they intend to require all homeschoolers to teach the public school diversity, equity, and inclusion curriculum, which means they're going to control the philosophy of the homeschoolers. Now, you can take that in any way you want to slice it. We can take it from the Supreme Court's decision in Pierce versus Society of Sisters, which is 100 years old this year.
Really?
Yeah, and so in that case, the court clearly said that the right of parents to provide an alternative education to the public schools so that they may learn according to their own philosophy. I mean, that's the key of the
Is
decision.
inherent.
That's inherent in it,
Yes.
and so I mean, I don't believe in applying international law to America, but when the left gets on the wrong side of international law and they're worse than what the UN would say to us, that's noteworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And what the UN Convention on the Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights says is that parents have the prior right to educate their children so that they may guide their children's education according to parents' own philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So when the UN is more on parents' rights sides than the state of New Jersey, there's a crisis at hand. And so I think that there will be the battle royale. Now there's other states that are threatening to crack down. Virginia, where I live, is threatening to crack down.
It's because you live there.
Yeah, well, that
I
could
mean,
be.
the godfather of homeschooling, they were
Well,
like, let's do it here in Virginia.
Well, it would. I would like to take credit for that, perhaps, but it's more that the Democrats think that they're large and in charge, and they believe what they say. They think that people who don't believe in their woke philosophy are dangerous. They contend that speech is violence.
Yes.
They are contending that we are being violent to our children. Therefore, they believe they have the right to use violence to stop us. Now, if they're willing to use violence, I mean, a professional scholarly poll in 2022 of college students said that 45% of American college students believe that it's proper to use physical violence to stop someone from doing hate speech. And so if we're teaching our kids that Jesus is the only way to God, they think that's hate speech. If that men and women are the only legitimate sexes and genders, that's hate speech. That proper sexuality is one man and one woman in the bonds of marriage, that's hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
And we could probably figure out a couple of things, but that's enough already.
Yeah.
And so they believe that we're engaged in hate speech. So they believe they can use violence. Well, if they can use violence, it's actually being nice to us that they're only going to take away our rights and jail us and stuff. And so it stands to reason that's what they think. And the Democrats are currently in control of the legislature of Virginia. We're having elections this year in November,
Mm-hmm.
and the odds are the Democrats are going to retain control in the legislature, but we don't know that for sure. But Illinois, of course, is a hardcore Democratic state,
Yep.
and they're attacking homeschoolers, and there are others. So I think we can see places where Democrats are strong either at the school board level or at the state legislative level, and ultimately even in Congress. But right now, Congress is in control of people who like homeschoolers.
Barely.
Yeah, barely in control.
Barely.
Right. And so, feds are not the threat today. In fact, they're our friends today.
Mm-hmm.
But we will This is we're going into a real battle season, and people need to be aware of that.
Mhm. I wonder, let's say that a state like Virginia or New Jersey passes a terrible law that would force parents to teach DEI or homosexuality or whatever it is. What are the odds then that that goes to it can be challenged? Can it be challenged and then taken to the
The
courts, or are we just stuck because it was
No,
a
ours that are challenged are 100%. HSLDA, and I'm still the chairman of the board for all these 43 years,
Mhm.
and that number is real. I'm
Yes.
not estimating that one. Is we will sue.
Yeah.
I'm not on staff anymore, but I'm their board chairman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't even have to order the
No,
staff.
they'll do it.
They'll do it. We will sue, and so we will be there challenging it. And what I will do is I'll line up Alliance Defending Freedom that I used to be the CEO of, and
Mhm.
all my friends that I know for Liberty Council and
Mhm.
First Liberty and
Mhm.
Beckett Fund, and
Little
they'll
bit of a
come to our
bullhorn at
yeah
NRB.
yeah
Yeah.
they'll come to our defense,
Mhm.
and I will be there. I'm general counsel for NRB these days
Mhm.
in my part-time retirement gig, um,
You
and
don't know
so
how to
I
retire.
don't no I know how to change gears. I do say I've been in the battle a long time, or the race a long time would be a better analogy, but I'm just going the speed limit right now. I'm not pedal to the metal. So it's a good, at 74, I'm entitled to back it off
I
just
think
to,
so. I think so. Yeah.
but speed limit's just the right pace
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. This would have been Dr.
Yeah,
Dobson's point of view as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And so, any event, um, there will be a challenge, and there will be a big team that comes. It will be like in California. When in California in 2010, the Court of Appeals outlawed homeschooling, the world came unglued.
Yes.
And so a big team came in to fight against that. I argued the case uh, on the constitutional issues. It was actually, they gave us, usually in a state court of appeals, you get 15 minutes aside.
Mhm.
They gave us 2 hours aside.
Oh, wow.
It was an unbelievable time. I had 45 minutes myself on the constitutional issues. And so the court paid great attention to it, and they reversed themselves and ruled in our favor on constitutional grounds.
Mhm.
And so, but it was a big team that came to fight for the rights of homeschoolers, with HSLDA leading the way, and with me arguing. I was head of HSLDA at the time. And so, that will be the kind of thing that will happen. And we will fight, we must fight, and we need everybody standing with us.
What do you say to people who live in a red state and they feel, pretty secure, and they're like, nothing, I live in Oklahoma, nothing bad going to happen to me. And so they just sort of disengaged. How important is it that everyone is aware of what's happening in the states that are controlled by leftists and Democrats?
Well, it's very important for two really pragmatic reasons. Well, there's a overriding. You should stand up for your rights of your brothers and sisters. Period.
Yes.
Okay, that's an overarching reason that should apply to everybody. But it's also likely to apply to them just a little down the road. And one way it can apply to them, even if you're in a red state, if you're in a city,
Yeah. Forget
or
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there can be local laws and school board level policies and
Mm.
actions taken that I've had to sue countless school boards
Mhm.
over the years that defied state law,
Mhm.
made their own policies, and tried to shut down homeschooling.
Right.
So that's if the blue states get away with attacking it, there'll be blue school
Be
districts
emboldened.
inside red states that will be emboldened to do the same thing.
Hmm.
Next is, hopefully not anytime soon, but there'll be, within my lifetime, if I live to the age of my parents and grandparents, there will be another Democratic administration in the White House and controlling Congress.
I shudder to think.
It will happen, predictably. Hopefully it wouldn't, but predictably it would. And if that happens, they'll take the lessons from the blue states and apply it at the federal level. Then it affects everybody,
Yes.
and they'll come at us with a vengeance if we don't get rid of the Department of Education at the constitutional level after the Trump administration or during the
So
Trump
you don't
years.
think it's enough that
No,
they're dismantling it? It needs to be just like all these other executive orders need to become law, or they're
right,
just executive orders.
right. Well, even that, getting rid of the Department of Education needs to be constitutional text, because otherwise, a Democrat Congress can overturn it. A Democrat president can overturn an executive order. A Democratic Congress can overturn a Republican law.
Mm-hmm.
And so it needs to be at the constitutional level, which is why I've been working on the Convention of States for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, we're going to be in a fight for the long haul, and we cannot expect the problems to all be solved right now.
So if we are, I want to talk a little bit about just regular people, because most of the people listening to this show are going to say, well, Mike, I'm not a constitutional attorney. I don't sit on a board. I'm a homeschool mom. What can I do? So practically, what can we do? Because I feel like the homeschool, you said this to me 20 some odd years ago when I first met you, that the homeschool movement is at its core a freedom movement. And I wonder how, if we can frame it that way, if then it's easier to tell people how they can get off the bench and onto the battlefield so that we don't get blindsided by some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm going to first address mindset and then a training thing that you can do. One is the mindset has to be that you are taking charge of what God's given you responsibility for. And, you know, the reason we have religious freedom in this country, and we were the first country in the world to figure it out. England had religious toleration, which is different than religious freedom. You know, just think of toleration in normal terms. I don't really like that guy, but I don't tolerate him.
Right.
That's what religious toleration is. If you don't differ too much, we'll let you go, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Religious freedom is there's no jurisdiction of the government over the heart, soul, and mind of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's religious freedom. And that comes from the Bible. That comes from believing that you render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's and render unto God the things that are God's. And these were the people who advocated religious freedom. That's what they argued. They weren't Enlightenment philosophers.
Mm-hmm.
Enlightenment didn't care about religion.
Mm-hmm.
The people that cared about religion came out of the Great Awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And so they believed that God was the exclusive jurisdiction over the heart, soul, and mind of man, so that the government can't control anybody's heart, soul, and mind. So it wasn't just for Christians, even though they were dominant in society, and no other group other than Christians ever came up with the idea.
Right.
But it was government lacks jurisdiction in this area, and so you got to know why. And so when you yield jurisdiction over
Explain jurisdiction.
Jurisdiction means they have the power to make the rules for your life.
Who gets to decide?
Who gets to decide? And so, do I get to decide how my children are raised, or does the government decide how my children are raised? Do I get to decide where I go to the doctor, or does the government decide where I go to the doctor? Those are jurisdictional questions.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be preserving the jurisdiction of God.
Yes.
God says, I'm delegating my authority, God has authority over everything, to the parents over the raising of the children. That's how the deal works with God. And so we are accepting the jurisdictional as stewards from God, as parents. We're not there to do what we want to do. We're there to do right by our children by God's standards. And so we have a duty as stewards, as ambassadors of God, to do that. But we have a duty to protect the jurisdiction of our master, and to not let people take over the governance of our kids. And so adopting that mindset is important. Now, I have had two programs that I've created over the course of time to help parents do this. One is called Constitutional Literacy. It's about 11 years old now.
Savannah took it.
Yeah.
I always say that when I'm on the show.
And it's interesting. I was in the White House just a couple weeks ago, and separately in the hallway, two different guys came up to me and said, I'm here at the White House on staff now, but I started all this by taking your constitutional literacy course.
Amazing.
I was at a Convention of States national meeting last weekend, and the director of COS of Michigan, 37-year-old homeschool mom, 7 kids, she said, I got my start in all this by taking your constitutional literacy program. And today I was interviewed by a Christian radio broadcasting network, and when the thing was over, he said, I just want to tell you, my daughter took your constitutional literacy program, and you know, she wants to be a lawyer. She was going to be an engineer or something.
Amazing.
And so I think God's trying to tell me something that I need to kind of maybe refresh that, because it's 11 years old.
Yeah.
But I have a practically brand new program called American Civics with Michael Farris.
Yes.
And it's new, and your longtime assistant did it with her daughter and got rave reviews from her and many others that have done it. And so, I'd encourage people to just go on the internet and go onto your website and look. You can see the constitutional literacy there.
Yes.
And you link up, and if you buy it through Heidi, then the homeschool center gets blessed by it.
That's right. That's right.
And so,
well, and honestly, I feel like parents, this is something we're planning on doing at the Homeschool Resource Center. We want to do the course there because
Yeah,
it seems to me that one of the things that's been lost in the education system, especially over the last 20, 25 years, has been civic engagement.
yeah,
We've just kind of pulled back from it. People like Charlie Kirk really trying to bring it back. Like,
right.
let's bring back discourse. Let's talk again. But in some regards, I feel like we've really crossed the Rubicon. And now we're trying to figure out how do we get back over here so that we've got people who are engaged civically and they understand the stakes and are willing to actually engage in the process.
There's a lot of people, and I would suspect that all of your listeners, pretty much close to 100%, want to do something.
Yes.
And the question is, well, what do I do?
Yes.
And you will point them, and others will point to them to particular projects. Here's a bill you need to call about. Here's a candidate you need to look at. There's particular things you need to do from time to time. But what the civics course desires to do is to train you how to be equipped in this area generally,
Yes.
so that you know how to. And if you it doesn't take that much to be more knowledgeable than average in this country. These are 25-minute lessons. There's 25 of them, so that's not a huge time commitment.
Mhm.
And I guarantee you will know more than most lawyers
Yes.
do, and most American civics teachers in high school, even if
Mhm.
they exist.
Mhm.
You'll know
Do
as
they
much.
exist?
Yeah, they do. I met one in a hotel lobby the other day because she was asking me what convention of state was about, and she was jumping to all kind of conclusion. I had to just calm her down and explain things to her, and she finally recognized that I really did know more than she did. And so the but you can learn. It's not difficult,
Yeah.
and politics always goes along this line. It the people whose viewpoint prevails is when a majority of people show up.
Yes.
And so if you post all the stuff you want on Facebook, make all the comments you want to your friends, if you don't show up
Doesn't matter.
when we're actually making decisions, you've been blowing hot air.
Mhm.
And so it's okay to do those things as long as you are also taking action,
Mhm.
because you're educating others, and that's good.
Mhm.
That's helpful, but it's not the substitute for taking action. And action, the minimum that every person listening to you needs to do is vote knowledgeably.
Yes.
That's the minimum.
Yeah.
Now, if you're willing to devote an hour or two a month, more than that, you can go to the top 1% of activism in this
Yeah.
country.
Yeah.
And so I give ideas on how to do that in the series, and I'm sure you're doing that regularly for
Mhm.
particular projects.
Mhm.
So the point is, show up, and our country will change.
Yeah. I wondered about this in the last election when Washington State I mean, we suffered terrible losses in the last election, and it was so discouraging. And a lot of people that live in, California, Oregon, Washington, would just feel like we're, suffocating under this devastating legislation. It just keeps passing out. It's like you're dying one paper cut at a time. But when I looked into the Family Policy Institute of Washington, I was horrified to discover the number of Christians that simply did not vote. People who say, I mean, and I use the term Christian in air quotes because they're people who are self identifying as Christians, but at the very least, they're moral people, religious people. And they're just saying, you know what, I give up. I don't vote. The system is rigged or whatever it is that they say. And so when Brian gave me the numbers, Mike, it was astonishing. Like if people would show up to vote, we wouldn't just win, we'd win in a landslide. It wouldn't even be close.
Right. No, I lived in Washington for more than 30 years, and I've done the analysis. I haven't done it in the last 6 months, but I've done the analysis that there are enough voters in eastern Washington
Yes.
and in the southwestern Washington, the little chunks of the northwest corner, but not Bellingham, where I graduated from undergraduate school.
Not
Um,
enough there.
yeah, not right in Bellingham, but in the area. I mean, Linden and
Mhm.
Ferndale and
Mhm.
Mount Vernon and so on.
Mhm.
There are enough pockets that if the Christians showed up and voted at an 80% level, you could control things.
Yes.
You could control things.
Yeah, we'd actually
Yeah,
get a decent governor.
yeah, you could.
Yeah.
And
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 kick Patty Murray out of the Senate.
amen to that. And so the reality is that we would control the vast majority of this country. There are very few congressional districts that if we had a high enough turnout of our people. Now, Glenn Youngkin won the governorship of Virginia 4 years ago with 19% of the eligible voters.
Only 19%.
19% of the eligible voters. So you start with who's eligible to vote, then you have who registers to vote, and then you have who shows up to vote. And once you cut out a third of the people because they don't register to vote, and you cut out another chunk of the people who don't show up to vote, and then you divide it between two candidates,
you're left with
19% in a mostly blue state these days reelected a Republican governor with 19%.
Because people were fired up enough to actually get out of their, their homes and go do the thing.
That's right. And so there are few states that you can't do that successfully. And so Washington is certainly winnable, and you certainly can send more conservative members to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., and you could make it a lot tougher in the state legislature. At the worst, you cut the Democratic majority down considerably so that their ability to do really bad stuff becomes more problematic.
So do you think in places like, I'm just going to keep using Washington State, but I would say this is true of almost all the blue states. Most of the people that I know that live in blue states like I do, I grew up in Portland. My husband's from Seattle. If you get outside of Portland and outside of Seattle, you find very normal, very conservative people who are just frankly discouraged. And what I hear you saying, and I guess that this is what I want my listeners to hear, is we don't have to be bossed around by Seattle and Portland if just people who lived on the outskirts in Ferndale and Ellensburg and Mount Vernon and Marysville, and if they would just actually
Squim.
My word, Squim. No one ever talks about Squim. Concanoli. If people would just get out of their homes and vote.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want credit for pronouncing Squim correct.
I know that actually was. When you see how it's spelled, you understand that no one ever pronounces it correctly. So well done.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. 30 years in Washington, you've got your
and my brother lives,
native tongue down.
My brother lives about 5 miles from Squim, so
right now.
Yeah. He lives in Joyce, Washington.
Yep, I know where that is.
And so, anyhow, the people in California, it's true. I mean, Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, hardcore left.
Hardcore.
The rest of California is pretty normal.
Yes.
It's pretty normal. Yeah. And so
these people, they just want common sense. They want closed borders. They don't want to be taxed out of their homes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we need to do this. In fact, there's actually somebody brought it up to me recently. It's the first person in 20 years that has known about this. The Supreme Court of the United States messed stuff up on the state level. What we're talking about is a consequence of a really bad Supreme Court decision, and where they held that both houses of the state legislature need to be aligned by equal population. Whereas at the U.S. Senate, it's the states have equal representation. The case that came out of Colorado was the House in Colorado had to be equal by population, equal districts, which favors the big cities. But the Senate in Colorado was one senator per county. If you do that in California, you do that in Washington, you do that in Oregon, you're going to have a conservative Senate in all the states.
Can you get that? Can we fix that?
The Convention of States can fix that.
How confident are you that Convention of States is going to go forward?
Well, President Trump tweeted a promotional tweet about it this week.
That was worth some serious cash.
So that makes me very hopeful that we're going to get about 6 or 8 states this year, which will take us, if we get 8, it'll take us to 27. We need 34 states. Okay. So, to jump from 19 to 20, in the high 20s will be a good jump. And
you need 34?
You need 34.
Okay, so we've talked about this before. Mark Meckler and I have gone around and around about Convention of States also. But for people who've never heard of that, when you say we got to get to 34 states, just briefly, what is Convention of States and what happens when we hit 34?
Okay. There are 2 means of proposing constitutional amendments in Article 5 of the Constitution, and there are 2 means of ratifying constitutional amendments. And for proposing amendments, either Congress can propose it by 2/3 of both houses, or the states can propose amendments by 2/3 of the states, calling for a convention for the same topic. So there's tons of applications for a convention, more than 34, right, that exist right today, but they're not on the same topic. So you have to have 34 on the same topic. And the one that I'm working on, the topics are fiscal restraint on the federal government, impose term limits on federal officials, which is not just members of Congress, but people like Dr. Fauci also. And then the third is reduce the power and jurisdiction of the federal government. And so 19 states have passed that verbatim. And so what happens when you have a convention is you get together, it's one state, one vote, and it's a majority vote at the convention to approve the proposed text. So for term limits, let's say, it's you could decide it's 12 years in the House and 12 years in the Senate, but a total of 18 years altogether.
So you wouldn't get Chuck Schumer. He'd be gone.
Right. Well, whatever it is, but you're going to decide the details of the
Yes.
proposal at the convention.
Right.
And so then it goes back to the states, and 38 states, both houses, have to ratify what's done, which means 76 legislative chambers have to vote in favor of it. And so, which means you can't pass anything that's crazy. You can't pass right-wing crazy. You can't pass left-wing crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You can only pass something that the majority, the clear, strong majority
Mm-hmm.
of the American public supports. And they would support, I believe, doing away with the ability to do court packing on the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Require Congress to have single subject rule, which means you can't have 1,000-page bills that you don't even read and you vote on them. You can only vote on one subject at a time, and you have to be clear about it. You have to read the bills.
Yes.
And then fiscal restraints. You can't spend money you don't have. You can't spend money on jurisdictional issues you don't have. There's a common sense ways we've got to fix the spending problem in Congress. And so those all are things that could pass, can get to 38. And now to wrap back and answer an implicit question that we talked about a little earlier, can we get to 34?
Yeah.
33 states, current states, have passed, at least at the committee level, the Convention of States application. 33. And so if we could get those states to complete the task, we've gotten that far. That shows that it's viable in 33 states, which means we just have to convince one more state. We have to get it all the way through those 33.
Mm-hmm.
We have to convince one more state to actually do it, and then we'll have a convention on those topics. And so it's essential, and we really appreciate President Trump's support this week by tweeting out an article about it. And he didn't talk about it; he just retweeted the article.
It's enough.
But that's saying I'm putting my weight behind this.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think there are a lot of people who are looking at options like Convention of States, and they're starting to get educated, which we didn't see this 15 years ago. You've been pushing Convention of States for a long time. How long? I mean, how long?
Well, about 13 years. I mean, it started on my Facebook page. I'm the guy who thought it up, and so
there's a shocker.
Yeah. So shock.
I have this little harebrained idea. Comes out of the Constitution.
Yeah.
You guys may have heard of it.
Yeah. So it's about 13 years it's been going, and it's a little slower than I want, but I'm not the best at everything that I do, but I'm usually the fastest. Eating.
Eating.
When I took the Washington State bar exam, over 1,000 people took it. I was the first one done every day. I'm not saying I got the highest score, but I was the first one done.
But you knew how to make a decision. You're decisive.
Right.
This is the mark. This is the mark of a good leader.
So it's going slower than I would hope, because I like to be fast. But realistically, I set out to lead the way to legal. Well, legalized homeschooling is actually not the correct way of saying it. It's to win government acknowledgement of our God-given right to homeschool our kids.
Yes.
That's the proper way of saying it. So it took about 25 years for all 50 states to get into the category of, are you acknowledging our God-given right to homeschool? It took 25 years.
Yeah.
I helped lead the legal team that reversed Roe versus Wade. That took 49 years. Now, I wasn't leading that team for the whole 49 years, but I was a CEO of Alliance Defending Freedom that wrote the bill in Mississippi that was the backbone of the Dobbs case. We did it for a state legislator there. She got it through the state legislature, and then we helped defend it all the way, and we were co-counsel to the state of Mississippi Attorney General's office in the Supreme Court, and helped them with their briefs and preparation, their media, everything. And I was the CEO of the group that was doing that. So I was a part of the legal team that reversed Roe versus Wade. Now, it took 49 years.
Yeah.
And so the big changes in our country
We got to play the
take
long
a while.
game.
Yeah. And so I shouldn't be surprised it's taken us 13 years so far to dismantle the federal behemoth, but we're going to do it.
Mhm.
And if enough people stand up, show up, and speak up, it'll happen in a year or two.
Yeah, that's so exciting. We've got just a few minutes left, and there's so many things. Every time I get you on my podcast, I'm like, I'm gonna go 100 different directions because there's so many things that you can speak so well to. But I want to get your thoughts on the cultural moment that we're living in right now. We've seen kind of the beginnings of revival. I think the beginnings of an awakening. How do we meet this moment and not waste it?
My church is an example. Gary Hamrick's my pastor in Leesburg, Virginia, and hundreds of people come forward for salvation every Christmas, every Easter, and dozens come forward a couple times a month when he gives an invitation.
Mhm.
So hundreds of people are getting saved, thousands of people are getting saved in our church. And Gary is outspoken about politics. The idea that being outspoken about politics does not prove that hinders the gospel. The opposite is true.
Mhm.
Is that it shows that you believe that God's command controls every area of life.
Yes.
And so observation made. Also, what we need to soberly reflect on is we don't live in a unified country in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
There is no unity with people who think that it's acceptable to use political opportunities and
Differences, yeah.
differences to commit physical violence,
Yeah.
including murder.
Yeah.
And so we have nothing in common. No, there's a really negligible percentage on the right. There's some kooks on the right that will say that. There are teachers, professors, doctors, judges, newspaper publishers, TV personalities
Legislators, absolutely.
on the left who believe that's acceptable. They believe it's okay to kill people if they're speaking in a way they think is hate speech, which means speech that the left doesn't like.
Because you're a fascist, Mike,
Right,
if you do
right.
that. And fascism has to be eradicated at all costs. This is Nazi Germany, and we know what had to happen to Hitler. And so that's what has to happen to anyone who dissents from the left's orthodoxy.
And it proves also that they don't know how to define fascism even more than they don't know how to define men and women.
Right,
And,
right.
and so they are clearly exhibiting the elements of fascism.
Mhm.
And it is, do you use violence to silence your opponent? Well, that's what fascists did.
Mhm.
That's what the fascists did. And so we are saying free speech is for everybody.
Yes.
Free speech is for everybody. In fact, in the Supreme Court of the United States, when we were attacking the Biden administration's policy of bringing social media organizations in, I filed a brief in that case in the Supreme Court, and I said it is never permissible for the government to say, when we're talking about protected speech,
Mhm.
to say silence that voice.
Mhm.
Now the Supreme Court didn't agree with me. They said, well, some of it was too far and some of it was okay. And what I think the FCC commissioner and chairman and President Trump did was consistent with what the Biden administration was able to do, and the Supreme Court said was okay
Mhm.
in that Biden case. I think the Supreme Court was wrong in that
Mhm.
Biden case.
Mhm.
So I don't want my team or the other team saying silence voices we don't
Right,
like.
that's
As
right.
long as we're not talking about
The
violence.
market can decide that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
As long as we're not talking about violence.
Right.
We're the ones, the doctors, lawyers, professionals, the people that are teachers, the people that have some background in this that are on our team
Mhm.
are 100% saying no violence. I mean, look at Congress. The vote to condemn Charlie Kirk's murder were 58 votes against it.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
and-
Shameful.
And then another significant number abstained.
Mhm.
About
Cowards.
about half of the Democrats refused to condemn the violence against Charlie Kirk. So the other side, at very senior levels, thinks it's okay to murder people if we don't agree on politics. Whereas the American view
Yeah.
is, I may disagree with everything you say, but I'll defend to the death, my death, your right to say it. Yeah, not your death, my death.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that's what America is not geography foremost.
Mhm.
It's not certainly not a language.
An idea.
It is a cluster of ideas.
Mhm.
And that one idea is central to what it means to be America. And if they don't believe that, they're not truly American in that cluster of ideals sense. And so we do not live in a unified country, in a country that's not unifiable
Mhm.
until we open people's eyes and help them see that the lies they've been fed for a good long time now
Long time.
are just wrong. Um, I spoke this summer at the 100th anniversary of the Scopes trial. Okay, the Scopes trial was 100 years ago, and it was the lawyers doing it were William Jennings Bryant, the good guy,
Okay.
against Clarence Darrow, the bad guy,
Ooh.
and it was a very famous trial. It led to the play and then the movie Inherit the Wind, and where Clarence Darrow makes a
Ooh.
fool out of William Jennings Bryant, who unwisely took the stand as a Bible expert. And he wasn't. He was a knowledgeable layman, but he wasn't a Bible expert. And Clarence Darrow made him looking silly defending creation. And what the Tennessee law said in that case is, you're not going to teach human evolution because it divides the country. Just leave it alone. Stay out of it. And Darrow predicted all kinds of bad things would happen to our country if we went down this path. William Jennings Bryan made those predictions, rather. And they're all come true.
Yeah.
They've all come true.
Yeah.
And we are a divided country because we've been teaching a godless theory, and it's gotten more godless, more intensely godless, to the point where now in Loudoun County, Virginia, where I live, expelling 2 Christian boys who just simply asked a girl, "Why are you doing in our restroom, our locker room?" And they let the Muslim boy who asked the same question go. And so we are at a level of bias and indoctrination that is open and notorious. And so we have to recognize we've got to stop doing some things, including stop sending our kids to these indoctrination centers.
Yes.
And we've got to stop supporting them tax-wise. And we just have to say, enough's enough. We're not going to put up with this anymore, because we can't let a group take American tax dollars and indoctrinate people against America.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, and it's got to stop. And so we have got to use this moment to convey the ideas that we're going to stand up, not just for our rights, we're going to stand up for our country, which means we're going to defend the principles that made this country great. And we have to do it, and nobody else will.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Mike Farris, you are a national treasure. I love having conversations with you. I think it's so thought-provoking, and it's also encouraging. When you look ahead to where we're going after Charlie Kirk, after the dust settles from this, do you feel encouraged? Do you feel discouraged? Or do you feel like it's up in the air? People have to just get involved.
Well, I certainly feel it's up in the air and people have to get involved, because if we don't get involved, we lose.
Right.
Okay. But there's been a momentum shift,
Yes.
and that is in our favor. To use a football analogy, the left has outpunted its coverage, and they've gone too far. Too many Americans recognize that it's wrong to say we can kill people we don't agree with.
Yes.
Too many people think it's wrong to put guys on girls' sports teams.
Yeah.
Too many people think it's wrong to say there is no right and wrong, or you can believe whatever you want. We now have people waking up and seeing the consequences of these things, and there's a momentum shift in the right direction. And if we can give people practical things they can do, act upon that sudden realization that our country's heading in the wrong direction, we can turn it around.
Yeah.
And so why engagement is permanent is the other side's not going to give up no matter what. And so, but we can turn it around and do much greater things than we're able to do today. There's a lot of good stuff happening right now today in Washington, D.C. and in some states. There's good things happening. There's good things happening in Arkansas and in Florida and other places. Good things happening. But we got to do more. We got to do better. And it's simply a matter of turnout. If our people turn out, good can happen.
Man, it's so true. When I was considering running for Congress, and you're one of the first people that I called, I remember you saying to me, Heidi, the surest way to lose a fight is just not to show up to fight. And I think that's the moment. This is the moment that we live in. If people are interested in finding more about you, where can they go?
Well, they can go to my Facebook page. It's Michael Farris.
You're kind of a spitfire. He's a little punchy on his Facebook page. Yeah.
So but the material that I've produced,
American Civics.
Civics. Just if you just do my name in civics, Farris, Farris, or Farris and Constitutional Literacy, you can get either of those programs. And there's a variety of places you can buy the literacy program, HSLDA, ChristianBook.com,
Yes.
and other places you can buy that. But the civics program, they should just go to your website
Yep.
and get the civics programs there. And so, but if you just want to hear what I'm saying today, go to my Facebook page. That's the only place I really
Yeah,
talk.
you're like pontificating over there. It's I've got him on subscribe, so I get it. Mike, thank you for stopping by this makeshift studio here in Dallas. It's just been great to have you.
Thank you, Heidi.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I will link back to the civics course in mentions today. So you can just go to HeidiSt.John.com/mentions and I'll have that link there for you. You guys get engaged, get off the bench, get onto the battlefield. You got one shot at this thing. This is your life. Show up for it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And I will see you right back here again at the intersection of faith